Welcome back to Desktop Bodybuilding. Today I'm privileged to be joined by a top four finisher in the Mr Olympia, also a 3-time pro contest winner. He's finished in the top 5 in 24 pro contests, top 3 in 16 pro contests, and like I said, 3 pro wins. This dude is a legend of bodybuilding. I followed this guy from the moment I pretty much got into bodybuilding. I'm pleased to welcome Dennis James to Desktop Bodybuilding. Mate, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. Finally back in the United States. I was out of the country, Germany and Italy for the past 5 weeks, doing some business and, of course, my show in Germany, which was a huge success. But I'm back home, and I'm ready talking to you right here with for all the fans around the world, especially for the fans in Australia.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on, Dennis. And I was actually surprised you actually followed me up because we was meant to do this last week and I was crook and you said, hey, I'm back in the US. And I'm like, it's pretty cool that someone of your caliber is, keen to jump on and do all that sort of stuff. But basically with this interview, we're going to go over your career, get your opinions on a few things and do all that. So as I mentioned with some of your stats, you got 24 top 5 finishes, 16 top 3 finishes. And I looked at your record and you got, as far as I can see, 8 second place finishes with 3 pro wins. You were second place a lot. Was that pretty heartbreaking in your career?
I was so tired of second places. I asked the judges, I said, do me a favor, but place me out in the top 5 or give me the damn win. I was second so many times back to back, a lot of second places, which is, for me, winning second is worse than 3rd, 5th, 6th, or out of top 10. Second is kind of like the first loser, but you put this close of winning, and especially if, looking for a win. I have, my win in the U.S. was Dallas and Tampa, and it was like in the end of my career. I think I won 2 shows. It was 2 shows back to back, and I think I was 44 years old. Wow. So in my early career, I won my first pro show in my 2nd pro year. And then from then on, I could not win a pro show in the U.S. And I was just getting seconds, and I just got tired of seconds. But I guess that's life. Still better placing second than not placing at all because you still get a little shit.
Yeah, for sure. That would have to be so frustrating. You had obviously guys at the Olympia level getting those seconds. You had Chris Cormier, the Arnold Classic getting second a lot. So I suppose you can sympathise with those guys as well. Yeah. But what do you think was your best ever look? Because you had quite a few different versions. Later in your career, I think maybe you came in like a little bit drier looking, and early in your career, you were, full as a house and just ridiculously big. So what do you think was your best?
I think the thing is, when I think I was the best, I didn't place as well as I thought I should have. So, people just look at your condition and look at the way you look when you place, and people talk about you. But they could be situations where you place 8th or 9th and people don't talk about you, but when you look at the physique, you look better than it was when you placed 4th. I think my best placing was the Olympia in 2003 when I got 4th, but I think my best look was the Olympia 2004.
Okay.
So, yep. But if you don't get the look, people won't look at you. They don't see it. You know what I mean? If you were to put 2004 physique and put it, in 3rd, 4th, or 5th place in the Olympia 2004, people would say, oh, that was his best. But now people never talk about my 2004 look because I didn't place.
Yeah, okay. Where did you place in 2004 Olympia?
Good question. I don't remember. I think 7th, 8th. I don't remember.
Still, top 10 in the Olympia is still pretty damn good placing.
Yeah, but if you come off of 4th place and you think you're ready to kick ass.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, but that's why I think my best look on stage that people saw was of course 2003. But I think I had a few years where I was just better, but just didn't come across that way. So yeah, sometimes you just don't. People don't look at you the way they should.
Yep. In 03 and 04, were you working with anyone then? Were you working with Milos at the time?
No, 03 I was working with Chet Nichols.
Yep.
03 and 04. Yeah, Chet Nichols 03. Yeah, definitely. Definitely Chet Nichols 03, and I think I was working with Chet Nichols in 04 too. But I think I was working by myself in 2004. Because that was after the arrest in Thailand. I don't think I was working with anyone.
Yeah.
For 2004.
Now you just mentioned Thailand then as well. Now from memory, I think you've been to Thailand a fair bit, and have you actually lived there?
15 years. I lived there
15.
15 years. 15
Wow.
January 1990 to November 2004.
Wow, I had no idea it was 15 years. I did hear that you
Yeah.
lived there, but I didn't know it was that long. That's crazy. Because obviously a lot of bodybuilders from Australia love to go over to Thailand because everything's easier and everything's pretty cheap as well. So do
Yeah.
you think it's an amazing place to live or to visit for a pro bodybuilder or just an amateur bodybuilder?
Yeah, I mean, I went there before I started training. I didn't, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I went to Thailand because I wanted to get the gear." I wasn't even bodybuilding when I went to Thailand. 1990
Really?
January, I wasn't even training. I didn't start training until 2000 and 1992. So I was there for 2 years before I even started lifting weights. So, because
Wow.
a lot of people say, "Oh, he just moved to Thailand so he can get the cheap gear and he can get the real deal." I didn't know nothing about steroids when I moved to Thailand, so I had no idea. So
So how did you get into bodybuilding over there?
it was $100 bet. I was, we hanging out at the bars at night, at the go-go bars, getting drunk. And then there was guys, there was a lot of, especially at high season, there was all these tourists from Sweden, Denmark, Germany, all these bodybuilders, coming to the go-go bars with the tank tops walking like this. And me and my drunk state of mind, I told this one dude, I was like, man, to look like you would take me less than 3 months. And he was like, there's no way. I was like, man, 3 months. And I looked at it, $100. Boom, there was go. Next day, I started going to the gym with these guys. 6 weeks later, they paid me.
Well, that's amazing. That's a cool story.
92 in March, 92 in March, it started with this $100 bet. In 93 October, I was on stage at the Nava Universe in England.
Wow, that's insane. And you end up winning the NABU Universe too, didn't you?
Yeah, 95, yes. 93 was my first, it was my first show. I didn't even qualify. I did some show in Germany because the world president back then, the NABA world president, Klaus Hoffmann, he invited me to do the German qualifying, but just to see if I can hang with the standard over there. So I competed, and then he invited me to come to the universe. I went to the universe representing the United States. I had no idea what the United States, nobody in the team. I didn't know the United States NABA president. They didn't know me. I was the only American that placed in the final. You know what I mean? So I ended up placing fourth in my first show.
That's pretty incredible. That's amazing. So obviously, what made you move to Thailand in the first place?
Nothing. Because I didn't plan on moving there. I thought I was just going to go for 2 weeks. It's just, a friend of mine who his dad who owned the hotel down there, they've been inviting me for years. Like when the summer, when the school was out in Germany, and for me, Thailand, Philippines, I thought it was all China. I didn't know that there was different countries. For me, it was all Chinese.
Yeah.
I said I had no interest in going. So one year I told one of my friends, I said, let's go for 2 weeks. So we bought a ticket and we went there for 2 weeks, and I just stayed, never came back. Came back 15 years later with a wife and kid.
Wow, that's incredible. That's so crazy.
Yeah,
Now,
it's a true story.
obviously, you went from Germany to Thailand, and then you moved from Thailand to the US, was it? Or did you go back to Germany?
First back to Germany for 3 years, or 2.5 years, and then to the US in 2007.
Yeah.
I
So,
was traveling back and forth to the US from Thailand, because I was, like I said, I was competing in the States,
yeah.
So I was in the States like every year for the Olympia. I was there for at least 3 months before the Olympia. I was just training out there in Los Angeles.
Yeah, for sure. Now, when did you start working with Milos Sarcev? Because I remember you working with him for a few contests.
Yeah, I worked with Milos. I met Milos the first time at my first pro show because I was doing everything by myself. I won the USAs in '98, and then I competed at the Night of Champions. It was still called the Night of Champions back in 1999. And I remember it was like 54 competitors. And this is where I met Milos for the very first time. And Milos kind of talked to me. He's like, wow. I said, with a physique like this, you could win shows, And so we basically talked. And I had no clue of what I was doing. So he basically offered some help, And I was like, hey, shit, if I can get it, I'll take it. You know what I mean? That's when he started faxing all kind of protocols to me. You know what I mean? It was a little bit overwhelming in the beginning, but I got to say I've learned a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and Milos is one of those guys as well. Everything's very detailed. I know a fair few people would have worked with Milos and worked with him, and I see the emails and they're long emails, and he's very specific on a lot of things.
Back then, Facts. It was faxes. I was reading faxes, man. I was like, I started from over there, I ended over there. Like, I'm still reading.
Oh, that's awesome. And back then as well, like now, obviously everything's on the internet. It's, you sort of get to see what quite a few guys do, and you hear of a lot of different guys working with different people. So you sort of hear, I suppose, the consensus and find out what a lot of people are doing and using and all that sort of stuff. But back then, did it seem almost like, oh, this is the secret? Like, he knows exactly what to do.
There's no secret. A lot of people say, yeah, man, every time I meet, especially amateurs or new pros that, I didn't get a chance to meet all the guys. It's like, yeah, maybe I can finally meet you. What's the secret, man? There got to be a secret. I was like, trust me, if there was a secret, I'd be a billionaire. Trust me.
Yeah.
I said, there's no secret. And some people just don't believe it. I was like, why would there be a secret? You know what I mean? It's hard work, it's dedication, it's drive, and it's a lot of good luck. You know what I'm saying? So, it's genetics, because if you don't have it, I don't care what you've been taking. You can take the whole pharmacy up and down, and you're not going to get there.
Yeah. And speaking of hard work as well, you went through some of those Milos workouts and the giant sets and all that sort of stuff. Is that the hardest workouts you've ever done in your life? Because I've seen them and they look hard.
I did that only one time. I never really did the giant sets with Milos. I mean, I trained there, I worked with him, but back then I didn't really do all the giants. I did it one time, I mean, it's a different workout. So for me, it's not my type. It's not my style of workout. Will it work? Yeah, it works. You know what I mean? But it's different. So I like to change things up a little bit more. And I never had any issues with training. I never needed a trainer to tell me how to train. Yeah,
for sure. And do you think that Milos is obviously doing the giant sets? Do you think it works more in conjunction with the insulin protocols and all that sort of stuff, or do you think that it works on its like standalone by itself?
I don't know. Those are questions that you need to ask Milos, because I really don't know much about that style of working out and with his insulin. I don't know. I can't talk much about that.
Because you had a DVD and it was called Back to Basics. So for me, that sort of says to me anyway that, going back to basics, heavy lifting, that's the way you sort of built your physique. Is that the way you, I suppose, encourage your clients and people to, I suppose, at least start in bodybuilding?
Well, that's what I did, you know what I mean? So I can only speak for myself. So back then I was training heavy. I was not cheating with weights. I was not jerking and swinging weights around. I was really, really strong, and I took advantage of it. You know what I mean? And I was doing this from day one, and that's how I got the size that I had back then. And and I got to a point later on, once you get a little older, and you're kind of worried about what if you tear a muscle, because I never really had an injury. So that's when I came up with that, MTUT, with this super slow training, super slow on the concentric, not the negative, but the concentric, coming up and just do it super, super slow, because I figured, what can you do in order to mimic heavy weight, but not using heavy weights? You know what I mean? So that's when I came up with that. But for me, back to basics is still probably the best style of training in order to build a big and thick and a solid physique. There's no way around it.
For sure. Now, you were known as the Mr. Olympia in the gym. Now, if I was you, that would sort of annoy me, I guess, because everyone's like, oh, he's going to win and he's going to do this and all that sort of stuff. And people hyped you up very heavily before contests. Now, this, I don't know if it was great in terms of, getting sponsorships and stuff like that. I imagine it probably was, because, every time I'd see photos of you, it was just everyone was going crazy on forums and everyone was like, Dennis is going to be Mr. Olympia or going to be, really high in these shows. And then sometimes, I suppose, because everyone got so hyped with you, people were like, oh, Dennis didn't win, or Dennis didn't place top 5 or something like that in the Mr. Olympia. Did that annoy you that everyone was like, you're Mr. Olympia in the gym, and sort of like questioned, I suppose, what you brought to the stage in comparison to what they saw in the gym?
I've learned really early to not bother what people say and what people think, because at the end of the day, I can only do what I think is right. And people telling me, or people saying, oh, he's going to win, and then after they're going to trash you, saying, oh, he lost all that weight. Wait a minute. There's a difference between you having a workout and you having a fucking pump, and then you taking pictures, and then you going on stage totally dehydrated, depleted. So of course it's not the same person, but people expect for you to walk on stage the same way if you have as having a full body workout. So, I didn't care no more what people think, you know what I mean? So, or what they thought. I was just doing my thing and just hoping that I can put it all together, because I was literally chasing the day where I can put it all together with condition and the fullness, you know what I mean? But then, but if I'm looking at the guys nowadays, you know what I mean? That would have been way easier in the time now. Right now, it would have been way easier coming in the way we did back then.
Yeah. Why do you say that? Is just because the conditioning isn't as good today? Do you mean, or
the condition as now? If you compare the conditioning in the late '90s, early 2000s, it was great condition. The whole lineup. Now you see one or two guys. You know what I'm saying? And then you see the rest of them are just off or not really on for let's say Mr Olympia or Auto Classic. Back then, everybody was on.
Yeah, for
sure.
sure.
Everybody was on. Why? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So people, I don't want to say you guys don't train as hard. Maybe they don't diet as hard. I don't know. Maybe they just do too much of what they shouldn't do and not enough of what they should do. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
I don't understand it. I don't see any, back then you see guys standing there with striated shoulders. You don't see that no more. Where do you see striated shoulders? I don't know why. Is it because it's all scar tissue? And you know what I'm saying? So there's so many different factors that you never know. I would like to see these guys, especially with the size they're having nowadays. I'd like to see these guys coming really, really conditioned and see what that looks like.
Yeah, the only guy I can think of off the top of my head that has striated shoulders is Dexter Jackson these days. Outside of that, I can't think,
Yeah. Back then, it was almost all of them.
Yeah, for sure. Also, this was a debate between, I don't know if you saw it, between Fuad Abiad, Luke Sando, and then Dave Palumbo and Lee Priest. They did a debate on this, talking about the conditioning and if guys were better in the 90s and whatnot. And something that Fuad and Luke actually brought up was that maybe they think everyone thought the conditioning was better back in the 90s because the camera quality was lower, so it looked a bit more grainy. Do you buy into that at all, or do you think that that's sort of just an excuse?
Listen, I was around in the '90s, and I've been around 3 decades. I've seen stuff close up.
Yeah.
Now it's not the camera angle. It's the bodies. The condition is not the same.
Yeah.
That's why when you see somebody that's conditioned today, he stands out. You're gonna be like, this condition was crazy. Back then, this was normal. That's the kind of condition you bring to the stage. Now you stand out with body parts and size, like Dorian did, But today, condition-wise, if somebody's really conditioned, he stands out just by being conditioned.
Yeah. I got to say, the last show that was just on the weekend, I was a little bit underwhelmed in terms of the conditioning, because I know someone put up I think it was Milos actually, put up a video of the top 3 posing, and it was up close. It was a real up-close video. And I was like, oh, these guys, I'm like, is it the lighting? But I'm like, I can't keep making that excuse.
You're talking about the Japan Pro this past weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah. Milo said they were all, I actually talked to him yesterday on the phone, and he said, they all looked like they were 6 weeks out.
Yeah. Which sort of sucks, like it sucks to see, because I love conditioning. Like, I love seeing these guys just razor sharp, but yeah, it sort of sucks to see a lot of these guys just missing their mark but still being rewarded, I guess.
Yeah, that's a problem. They're still being rewarded. That's why, how can we force them to be conditioned when they still win?
Yeah.
Or they still place? So how are you going to critique somebody that say, let's say Juan, Juan Morel won, and I guess he fairly won, but how can you critique his condition? He just won the show.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So this is the judge's job to not reward if you're not conditioned. You know what I'm saying? Don't let him win and then complain. You know what I'm saying? It's the same for who got second? Cedric McMillan. Cedric McMillan's. We've been talking about this for how long? And what is he going to say? I got second. What the fuck y'all talk about? You know what I'm saying? Talk about his condition as long as we want, but he still places and he still wins shows and he places. Maybe not so much in the Olympia, but he placed second. He won the show a couple of weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? And I've never seen him really shred.
Yeah, for sure. Now,
but But if you award him with placings, you can't complain about it. You know what I'm saying? Because they have a valid point. I said, listen, you talking about me? I got second. Where did you place?
Yeah. So you think there should be harder, like I suppose, harsher judging for guys that miss the mark?
Well, not only that, but they need to have somebody to be up there to beat them. I mean, if there's nothing behind them, what they gonna do?
True. You can only judge what's there.
Exactly. You can only judge what's on stage, and if everybody on stage is just not is off, then you might as well take the one that looks the best off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wasn't there, so I didn't see any pictures either. So I'm not going to judge anybody, but I'll just go by what I hear.